I'm reviewing for the second time strings from Restring. I've already done a review of Restring Zero, which seems like every man and his dog on YouTube have done the same. And this time I'm bringing in Restring Vivo, and I'm mixing them up as a hybrid for a very specific reason. When I reviewed Restring Zero, they themselves claim that they want to compare it, even beat Solinco Hyper-G, and I think the two strings have got a lot in common. I found it to be a little bit too lively and not enough control for me, so I wanted to try putting a hybrid in with the Restring Vivo, which is a slightly stiffer string, to see if that would kind of tame down what is otherwise a bit of a wild party animal. This hybrid is referenced by Restring themselves. They kind of give advice on it. So I kind of figured let's put the two together and see what they do. So I strung up Restring Zero in my Technofiber T-Fight. It was a really good string, and I'm almost a little bit reluctant to say so just because everyone on YouTube has said it's such a great string, and people are kind of called out, let's face it, to say, do you mean that, or have you been incentivized to say that? And the fact that there are a lot of people who say Restring Zero is amazing, kind of people turn around and say, yeah, it's just a string. For me, I really did like it. I did buy a reel of it. Not for me. My wife uses it. Why didn't I use it ultimately? Because it's just too lively. A bit like Hyper-G. I found that it's great when the ball is, you've got time to step in and time to hit through the ball. Amazing. But when you're getting pounded by the ball and you've got very little time to get balanced and you've got to be really precise, it really lacked that for me. So I wanted to see if I hybrided it with the Vivo, being stiffer, would that just bring that element of control in? Now Vivo, as far as I'm aware, is a 5-sided string, pentagonal, but when you feel it, you wouldn't kind of say it's got any sides at all. It's very, very round feeling. It is a bit stiffer as far as I'm aware. They talk about controllable power. Now this is not a cheap string. A reel of this is £175, which is getting towards, that's premium string territory. That's Luxolon territory. In comparison, I'm using Solinco Confidential at the moment. I can get a reel of that for like 120, 125. So now I do understand that they've got kind of a sustainability front. I think there's recycled materials in here, which have this higher costs. Still an awful lot of money for a string. I mean, basically, it's got to be fantastic as far as I'm concerned. In terms of stringing, I went and I put the Restring Zero in the mains at £48, and I decided to put the Vivo and the crosses at 46. These are both 17 gauge, which for Restring is 1.23 millimeters. So what was I really looking for? I wanted to see, basically, would it bring in control? What did I find? Let's talk about power first of all. With this thing, you can just hammer the ball. It's got power in absolute buckets. And when I did review the Restring Zero, the spin you can get is brilliant, and the Vivo, it didn't take that away at all. So the power and the spin, absolutely fantastic. So on ground strokes, I feel like even on high balls, I could just sort of turn and really hit through the ball. Noticeably, this was more when I did have time to get balanced, to step in, and I had the time to really get going on it. It rewarded me for being aggressive, but where I had time to be aggressive. I played a set of a match on this where the ball was being hammered at me where I didn't have the time, half the time, to step in. You know, most of the point is we're pressing each other back and I'm playing not quite on the back foot, but I can't really press into the ball. And I found that especially as well when I had to get that ball just going down the channel or precisely over there, or almost like you're putting a spot, I couldn't really rely on this setup to do that for me. Serving was brilliant, so could really get some pop both on first and with the kicker. I wouldn't say it kicked up necessarily massively, but just could get really nice power with this string. I really did appreciate that. So the things that worked well, definitely the power and the spin. Durability, so I've already noted my wife uses Restring Zero, and it doesn't notch, it kind of indents. It's almost like it's just getting pressed in, so it's not cutting. So these were, yes, there are technically little indents, but didn't really see that impacting these. Tension was okay in terms of maintenance, although personally I felt like it was a little bit soft for me. So maybe I should have stuck at 48, or maybe 50-48. It could have gone up a little bit potentially. So what are the downsides? Like Hyper-G, like Restring Zero by itself, this did sort of bring a bit more control in, but it was very hard to precisely sort of thread it through the eye of a needle, if you like. It just didn't have that precision. I did feel that a lack of being connected to the ball. Hitting through, I couldn't tell you precisely where the ball had hit on my racket, and then as I hit through, just feeling that great connection with the ball, this felt a little bit looser than that. Even though there is a big sustainability factor here, and we should all think, I mean, I look at my bin that I have by the side of my stringing machine and it's full of string that will go into a landfill. Let's face it, it does. So there is a sustainability component here where you look and say, it's great, they're recycling this, but I'll tell you what, it's still expensive. It really is. £175 for a reel. I think the Restring Zero is £150 a reel. So together, that's quite an expensive setup, where, to be honest, I think you could just go across to Solinco, get Hyper-G and another string to go with that, maybe Confidential, maybe Mark 10, and I think you could recreate that, frankly, for cheaper. I think for that price, really what you're paying for is, if it is the sustainability, but also, frankly, I think the way that they've built the brand up, maybe they're sort of pitching it as a premium product like Apple. And you know what? If people buy into that and they find value, then that's absolutely amazing. So who is it for? It is for that advanced club player, someone, maybe they're not facing the heaviest ball, they're not being absolutely put under pressure. This isn't, to me, this isn't a performance string. They do like that free power, they like the spin, they like the durability, which you could say, you could offset a bit of the price for the fact that these strings, you could play with them. You know, my wife uses them a good 3-4 weeks, and yes, it goes a bit soft, but you know what, again, if you're playing at a club level, you might not care so much about that. And I think ultimately as well, somebody who wants a fun string to play with, not really focused about control, I think this is a great setup, and the Vivo just helps give it a little bit of sensibility to it. So overall, did putting the Vivo tame the Restring Zero a bit? The answer is yes, it did. But don't expect it to turn into a control freak. It was still, frankly, an absolute wild child. So overall, a really fun hybrid, great for power, great for spin. Just a note, I am planning to try Vivo on its own as a full bed and see what that gives me. I might put this up to £50 having experience now to see actually how does this compare to things like Headlinks Tour or Solinco Confidential. So over to you. Have you tried Restring hybrids? A lot of people talk about Restring Zero and Restring Sync. Love to hear your thoughts. Always love to get your views and opinions in the comments.